Well, for today, what we're going to do is talk about creating a shared album and specifically what to do with graduation photos that you might have from a special event this year. And while this is going to be specifically about graduation photos, it really can be used for any family milestone event that you're attending that you want to share with people who couldn't be there. So that's what we're going to walk through today. Before we dive in, I do want to let you know about what we have coming up for you next week. Next Friday's coffee break is going to be guest hosted by JC Figueroa. He is our head of customer success. If you've ever had to contact support, you've either talked to him or somebody on his team. And he's going to share healthy Mylio habits, three things to do and one to avoid. So, tips for keeping your Mylio library healthy and running strong and secure. So, that's going to be Friday, June 12th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And then next week we'll also have live Q&A with me on Tuesday and Thursday. These are drop-in sessions. You can come and ask questions and I'll talk about pretty much whatever you guys want to talk about. And then on Wednesdays we have a special Q&A session just for new users. That is with Lori. She is our head of onboarding. Lori is also here today in the chat helping out, making sure I don't miss any of your questions. And, she'll chime in every now and again as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started from here. And we're going to talk about cap gown and camera roll. So one of the things that happens when we go to an event like a graduation is your camera roll can easily fill up fast. Hundreds of photos can be taken in a few hours. You might even be receiving shared images on your text messages or WhatsApp or whatever it is you use for messaging from other people, and you want to get those all into your Mylio library and then be able to share the day with the people who weren't there. And like I said, this doesn't apply just to graduations. This is any event where you have something special happening and you want to get those things, those pictures, those memories to the people who couldn't attend. This could apply to a family reunion. This could apply to a kid's birthday. This could apply to an anniversary party. So many different things that happen in our lives that this can work for. We're going to use the example today of a graduation. And I'm going to give you fair warning here. I'm going to use pictures from my high school graduation. I haven't been to a graduation in a while, and I figured what better to do than show you pictures of when I was 17. And also, there's just not as many of them to go through, which fits well for a live demonstration. So hopefully you guys will enjoy seeing me as an awkward teenager. Um, so we're going to find ways to get things to grandparents, cousins, friends who couldn't be there, and then how to easily get those things to them via either text message, email, and doing it one at a time, which is what a lot of us do is we drag them into an email or we drag them into a text message. That can be really tedious. So we're going to put them all into an album in Mylio and then share them as a private online gallery. So why an album and not just a folder? So before we get into building our album, I want to talk a little bit about the fundamental difference between albums and folders, specifically in Mylio, because they are very, very different. Folders mirror your file system and matches what's on your hard drive, whereas albums are virtual collections that you can group things together without moving the originals, without making duplicates. And that's why an album is ideal for curating a single event like a graduation, especially when the photos are coming from multiple cameras, multiple phones. The album is the right tool for this job. So a folder is something that references the actual location of your photos on your computer or your external hard drive. So when you see a folder in Mylio, that is a folder that exists on your computer or on your external hard drive. And it mirrors what's on that disk. So everything that you see in Mylio in a folder is actually in a folder on your computer. And these are best for storing and managing your photos, so keeping a structured hierarchy. I like to do a year, then an event. And any changes you make moving things around in folders actually affects your file system. So if you take a picture and you move it to another folder, you're physically moving that folder on your hard drive. If you duplicate it and you want that picture in more than one folder, you would be making duplicates and taking up more storage space on your hard drive to do that. So that's where something like an album comes in. And they're virtual collections that allow you to take any single picture and you can put it into as many albums as you like, and it doesn't move or duplicate anything on your hard drive. So these are great for grouping things with a specific purpose. For instance, like what we're going to do today with my graduation, and they're referenced to where the pictures live. So the originals stay exactly where they are, and then the album just references them. So albums are great for thematic collections and pulling images from multiple folders for easy sharing and viewing. One thing to note here is removing a photo from an album does not delete the original file. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you work when you're dealing with albums. So to get started here, the first thing we're going to do is find all of the graduation photos. We're going to touch on some of the search and filter tools in Mylio and find where all of those graduation pictures live. So for me, probably the easiest way to do this is jump to the calendar view, go back to 1996. And I know I graduated in June, so finding those pictures is pretty easy, especially since they were scanned images. I didn't have a digital camera at that time. I don't even know that they were very commercially popular yet. Um, so we're going to be able to find those pretty easily. You can also use quick filters. You can do a dynamic search for just graduation if you've labeled them. But quick filters let you flag things or filter down by specific date there too. So if you have things that have come from a lot of different places, that can also be a good way to do it. So let's go ahead and jump over to Mylio and locate some graduation pictures. So like I said, I like to go to the calendar, but before I do that, I'm going to show you how you would do it with quick filters here from the All Photos view. Either way is totally acceptable. So you would go ahead and open up this left sidebar, go down here by date, and I know I graduated in 1996, so we can go down here by year. You can also just type in the top here, 1996. And here's a folder I have of my 1996. I could start by going to that, and that's going to pull me to all my pictures from 1996. I can also just pin the year, and that pops me right where I need to be. So I can go ahead and close up the year, and then I can go ahead and put here, I want to find everything in June. So I can find June by month. There it is right there. And again, I can pin that. And there we go. I have made it to my graduation picture. So this was a graduation weekend. It took place over several days. So there's a lot of different graduation related events in this particular area. So that's one way to find all of those. For me, the easier way to do this is to jump over to the calendar view. And I'm going to go ahead and go back up to the top level here. And if we're here in modern times, I can scroll back and back and back and back and back. There we go. There's my 1996. And I can go ahead and scroll over here to June. Go ahead and open that up. And there are all my pictures that I scanned from my graduation. So that's how you start out, is by locating all of those pictures. And to me, using the calendar is probably one of the easiest ways to do that. Graduations, depending on where you go to school, are typically a one-day event. Where I went to school, it was like a 3-day event. So there was a lot of stuff in here, but you can usually find it on a single day on the calendar. And that is going to be the easiest way to find those. Either one of these works across your entire library. It's pulling pictures from all of your folders based on the date in the file. So you can go ahead and have access to those pictures very easily. So second step here is to stage your pics in a quick album. This is a really quick and easy tool to gather images and have a staging area where you can pick what you want to have in that shared album. So you can browse, move things around, and nothing here is permanent yet. So what I'm going to do is jump back over here to Mylio, and I'm going to start scrolling through these and finding some of my favorites from my graduation day. So let me go ahead and grab this one here of my grandparents. I think that's pretty cute. This one of my brother and my cousin, me and my parents. And let's see here. Here's a good one of me and my cousins. I absolutely love this picture of me and my grandpa. It's probably one of the few times I ever saw him cry. So that's like a super meaningful picture to me. Every time I look at that, I get warm fuzzies and I miss him so much. I'm going to go here and grab one of me and my dad, me and my other grandpa. And there we go, me and my mom. And we're going to go ahead and just keep scrolling down and finding ones here. So here's me accepting my diploma and, waiting in line to get my diploma. Actually, let me grab this other one. The reason there's 2 of each of these, by the way, is I mentioned these are scans. My scanner does an original scan and then it does an enhanced scan. And this particular set of images, I actually like the unenhanced version better. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep selecting those. All right, so I'm going to grab this one, skip over a few more. There's another one of me and my mom, me and some friends, and more of me and friends. So just, these are all great memory pictures. And so you can go through and pick as many as you want. I don't need to necessarily pick a ton of them. But there's so many great things here. And you're going to find all of those moments that are important to share with the people who can be there. I'm going to find occasionally things like this where it came in sideways. I can fix that really quick. Over here on the right, there's the rotate button. And I can go ahead and fix that. Go ahead and add that to the list. And here we go. Let's grab another one of these. And there. So you can go through and grab a whole bunch of stuff. Here's a concert. Here's some other pictures. All right. So we've gone through all of our pictures. Like I said, it's a smaller group than you would take here in the days of digital because these are scanned. This is a long time ago. And I think that fits better for doing a demo. If I actually had a modern graduation I was going through, there could literally be hundreds of images. So there's quite a few less that I need to worry about here. So now I've got my quick album. That's this piece here at the bottom of the screen. And I'm just dragging pictures down to the bottom of the screen. This opens up automatically to this temporary staging area. And from here, nothing's permanent, nothing's moved, but I can sit here and I can reorder things. So here's one of me in line. I can move that here and I can move these around and reorder them and go, okay, maybe I do want this one. I don't want that one. I can select any one of these. I can pull it back out. So like I said, just a temporary staging area. Once you've done that, that's when we go ahead and can make this into an actual album. So to save a quick album as an album, super, super easy. What we're going to do is down here in the bottom right, we're going to click add to album and it's going to pop up with our album list. So I can go here and I can either put it in an album that I might have already started or say new album. And I can just say Angela's graduation, 1996. And if I want, I can go ahead and add a category here. So if this is for family, click apply and create. So I've now created the album. And if I click continue, that's going to go ahead and add everything here that was selected. So you'll notice I only had one thing selected. So I'm going to go ahead and select all. And let's do that again. So I'm going to add to album. I'm already in the Angela's graduation. So then I'm going to say continue. And there we go. So those have all now been added to an album. If I jump over here to the albums view, there it is. Angela's graduation, 1996. So there's my pics that I just put together. I'm going to go ahead now at the bottom of the screen and click clear. That clears the quick album and hides it from view. So now I can focus on this. And what I like to do when I create a new album is go up here to the more menu in the upper right and go to sort by. Right now it's by date created. I'm going to do these manual. And that way I can choose how I want these to be viewed. So I can go ahead and, move this one down here and I can move this one over here. Let's see here. I think that's, you can get as creative with that as you want, but you can order these however you want as long as it's set to that manual sort order. Excuse me. So now we have our album. We've saved it from the quick album. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we can do with a shared album. So now that we've created our album in Mylio, that's still private to us. The next step is going to be to get that out where somebody else can see it. So what Mylio shared albums allow you to do is create a private online gallery. You can add up to 1,000 photos per shared album, and they are displayed at optimized quality. So just kind of tracking back to what that fundamentally means in Mylio is you have basically 3 file sizes that Mylio works with. You have your original quality files. You have optimized images, was what we're talking about here, which are about 5% the size of the original. They're great to print up to like an 8 by 10. They display really well on screens, but they're not your full resolution file. And then of course there's thumbnails. So what you're gonna get inside of a shared album in that web gallery is not your original quality file. It will be an optimized image. But for sharing purposes, these are awesome. It is semi-private. What we mean by that is that it's not searchable by Google. So these are never going to get submitted to Google for indexing. So they are semi-private. Your viewers, once you send out this link, they do not need Mylio to view this. So it costs them nothing. It costs you nothing extra. If you're a Mylio Photos Plus subscriber, this is included in your subscription. And then, of course, these are editable. So if you decide later, you know what, maybe you put some pictures of your kid up there and your kid's going, Mom, I hate that picture. So embarrassing. Okay, we'll take that down. You can go in and remove that from the album, republish it, and I'll show you how to do that here in a few minutes. And any changes, so additions or subtractions you make from that album later on, you can republish and update it so that changes with that album. So let's go ahead and publish a shared album. Once you're in an album in Mylio, let's go ahead and jump back over there and just do that here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm in select none. So I'm going to go up here to the top, select none. So none of my pictures are selected. And then I'm going to open up the info panel. And then with no pictures selected, what I'm seeing here is information about my album. So I can add a little bit more context here. I can put in my high school name. I could put in, a little bit of a story. I could put my name there as the author. And then once I'm ready to publish this, all you have to do is click Publish Shared Album. So let's go ahead and click that really quick, and we'll walk through the steps that it takes to do that. So again, it's going to upload those optimized images, and you have some options as to how you customize this. So first off, it's going to ask you to agree to the terms of service and the right to publish content. I do recommend the first time that you publish to go ahead and glance through and read those. Basically, what you're agreeing to is that you don't post anything that is, let's say, really nefarious, and that you have the rights to publish those pictures, that they are your pictures, or you have permission to publish them. So that's why we ask you to agree to those two things. Next up, you go ahead and click Continue, and then you can decide what you want your gallery to look like. You can do a dark theme, gray, white, or cream. For this one, let's go ahead and do white. I think that might go well with kind of a graduation. It's light, it's happy. You can have the option here to create a downloadable archive. Again, this is going to allow people who are viewing it, if they want to download optimized versions. So these aren't going to be full quality shares. These are optimized versions, but it's great for sharing. Grandparents don't necessarily need the full quality file. People you're sharing with don't need the full quality file. And to be perfectly honest, if you're sharing pictures out of your library directly to text message, email, and so forth, a lot of times those platforms will downsize them anyway. So when you're sharing them, you're typically not sharing the full resolution file anyway. So if you want to create a downloadable archive, you can. You can choose to add a watermark. So if you're sharing a portfolio or some of your art pieces, you can add your own mark or your marketing there. Safe share is an option for stripping metadata. The reason you might want to do this is if you are, let's say you're making an album of a bunch of kids from your kids' sports team, and you've added in your library, in your personal private library, you've added their names, you've added where they're playing sports, you've added personal details, and you don't want to put those out on the web. The best thing to do there is just to go ahead and click Safe Share, and that strips all of that personally identifiable information. But in this case, I do want to share some of that information, and I can choose what to include here under Include Metadata. And so Camera XF is the information about the camera that it was captured with. That's fine. If I've added a caption and title, definitely want those included. Nobody else cares about my keywords but me. Ratings, they don't need to see my ratings. If this is my pictures of its artwork, I certainly do want to have my copyright included and my IPTC, which is also copyright related. If I've gone through and tagged people, again, depending on who you're sending this to and what you're using it for, you might want to have those tags, you may not. And same goes with places. I'm going to go ahead and turn those on. Library identifier is a file ID. So if you are sharing this with somebody and maybe you're using it for proofing a gallery for a photo shoot, they can reference that unique file ID, and then you can come back and find that file more easily in Mylio. So I typically leave that on. There's no reason, in my opinion, to turn that off. So there we go. There's my metadata that I've included, and I go ahead and click Share. Mylio will upload those to that web gallery, and we'll be able to go ahead and view those. So sharing the link, once the link is created, you can email the link directly from Mylio. You can copy the link here. You can put it into a text message, into WhatsApp, into whatever you want to use. It's just a web link, so anybody can open it. I often send these types of links to my grandma. She's 99. She can click it on her phone, open it up, And again, there's no software to install. They don't need a Mylio subscription. They can just look at the pictures. So let's go ahead and jump back over here to Mylio. There we go. It went ahead and loaded. If I click on that link, it's going to go ahead and launch my browser, and we'll be able to see what that looks like. So there's my web gallery. It looks great. At any time, I can go ahead and click on one of those pictures and see those pictures larger. I can even zoom in on them quite a bit. So like I said, even though these are optimized images, they are really versatile. And if you recall back there on that main page, there's that download link. So I did enable the web gallery to download. So somebody can just say download all if they want to put those in their camera roll. They can absolutely do that. They can share directly from here. And if they go ahead and click on the info, this is where you're going to see who's in the picture, technical details, any other stuff that you might have added about those photos. I'm going to go ahead and close that up. So that's what you're going to get. So you're going to get this URL inside of Mylio right here that you can then take and share anywhere that you want. And you can copy that. So this little symbol here, it's a pretty common symbol that we see these days. Click that and that copies it to your clipboard, and then you can go to any other application, paste that into whatever you want to do to send that to somebody else. It really is that simple. So we jump back over here to the presentation and talk about updating and republishing. So sometimes you go ahead and send something out and you want to make some changes. The easiest thing to do there. So if I go here in Mylio and let me go back to my calendar, and let's say I want to add, let's see here. This one here, me and my friend. I want to add that to my album. I'm going to right click on that and choose add to album. There we go, add to album. And I'm still in my album here, so I go ahead and say continue. So now when I go back over to the albums view, that picture is now in there. Well, it's not going to be part of my album that I uploaded because I haven't yet republished it. So if I go ahead and deselect, again, down here in the bottom right, select none, switches it here to see your album options. And then all you have to do is say republish, and you're going to agree to the same things again and continue. All of your settings here are the same. You can change them if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and click share, and that's going to go ahead and upload that additional picture to that album. Same thing goes if you want to remove something from the album. You can go ahead and remove pictures from this album. So let's say maybe I don't want to have this one in here anymore. I can just say remove from album, and see remove file from album right there, and take that out of there, and again republish, and it will publish that change. So your link stays the same. So people who have that link, they're going to get that refreshed version next time they load that link. So very easy to make changes, and you can go ahead and add some of those candid shots that trickle in after the event, or you remove the ones that your kids think are too embarrassing. When you are ready to unpublish, there's no requirement that you unpublish your stuff. But sometimes you might want to take something down, or you go, okay, I've had this out there long enough, or I want to clean some stuff up, and I no longer want this floating around out there. So you can unpublish a gallery at any time. And this doesn't delete that. This does not delete the album from your Mylio. It just removes the web link. Once you go ahead and click stop sharing here, this takes it down from the web. It's not necessarily instantaneous. In my experience, it usually takes 3 to 5 minutes, and then I go to that link again and it says that's no longer a valid link. So it's not going to be like snap your fingers, it's gone. Give it a few minutes for it to percolate out over the internet. Also, if you have cached files in your browser, it may show up until you hit refresh. So keep that in mind. But if you ever want to take that album down, again, pretty easy. Just go back to those album options and say stop sharing, and say, yes, stop sharing this album. One other thing I want to point out is if I go back out here to my albums view, you'll notice this little blue symbol on a couple of my albums right here. That means that has a shared album. So if I go anytime into that particular album or click on it, I can see here what that shared album link is. And maybe, I go, oh, I don't really want to have that one out there anymore. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. So you can keep track of which albums you have shared. So again, you can make all sorts of changes you want, republish, or at any time stop sharing those images. Pretty simple. I have to say that shared albums are probably one of my favorite and least it's like just kind of underutilized in Mylio, and it's so easy. I love that I can send things to my 99-year-old grandma, and she can easily view those pictures. I can send it to my aunts and uncles who are not very technical, and they can act, they can get into whatever they want. They don't have to download software. They don't have to, you know, sign up for any accounts. It's just viewing and it's semi-private. So it's really, really a great feature. So just a quick recap here on your workflow. What you're going to do is use calendar view or quick filters to find all of the photos from your special event. In this case, we're looking at a graduation, but it can be whatever special event you are working with. Use the quick album, that thing at the bottom of the screen, to stage your favorites. All you have to do, and then just go back here and just refresh from this, you just select a picture and drag it down to the bottom of the screen, and that's going to go ahead and open up your quick album. From there, you can go ahead and click the button in the quick album strip to save it as a regular album. Go into your album options and publish that, and then take that link and share it wherever you like. Later on, if you need to update it or remove it, all of that is possible. So I hope you guys give this a try if you haven't already. It's a really helpful tool inside of Mylio. I really enjoy it. Live Q&A Tuesday, Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Drop in, ask me questions. Informal meeting style. It's always fun, always different. So please join me for that. Wednesday, you will have the option for Just Ask Live with Lori. This is a Q&A session specifically for newer users, or maybe you had Mylio for a while, but you haven't touched it and you just are kind of wondering, how do I get back into this? It's a great session. She's awesome to work with. So you're welcome to join her also 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And then Friday next week, I am taking the day off, but JC will be here with you and he's going to be sharing healthy Mylio habits, 3 things to do and 1 to avoid. If you haven't had the pleasure of talking to JC in the past, he is our head of customer support and success. Um, Really, really awesome guy, excellent teacher. So you guys are in great hands with him next Friday. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful session. So you can find all of these at community.mylio.com/events, or go ahead and scan that QR code on the screen, and that'll take you to all of our events that we have coming up for you. Thank you so much to Lori for helping out in the chat, making sure I didn't miss anything as usual. And I think we're going to go ahead and call it a day. I want to thank you guys for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye bye, everybody.